The snow had stopped falling, leaving a clean, sharp silence under a sky pricked with late-night stars. Finn was on the road to Elk Creek, trudging along a long stretch of mountain asphalt slick with mud and melting slush. The wind howled, pushing him off balance with every few steps. It was a miserable walk. He paused, a needle-like pain shooting through his toes, and realized his socks were soaked through inside his worn boots. A surge of frustration, which had been simmering all night, finally boiled over. He stomped his foot, wanting nothing more than to kick off his boots and walk the rest of the way barefoot. He gently touched the faint handprint on his cheek and muttered a curse under his breath. A pair of bright yellow headlights appeared behind him, growing closer, followed by two sharp honks. Finn irritably stepped to the side to let the vehicle pass. But it didn't. A mud-splattered Ford pickup slowed and stopped right beside him. Leo rolled down the passenger side window, his brow furrowed in the dim starlight. He asked what the hell Finn was doing out here, telling him to get in the truck. Finn, looking away, insisted it wasn't about their mother. Leo didn't buy it. He told him to just get in and they could go home. Finn scoffed at the idea. He questioned the point of returning when she'd made her feelings so clear, saying it would be humiliating. He started walking again, hands shoved in his pockets, his posture defiant against the wind. Leo honked again, his voice tight with frustration as he accused Finn of being stubborn, of never listening to his older brother. The accusation hit its mark. Finn stopped, his shoulders slumping, presenting a thin, rigid back to the truck. Leo let the truck roll forward until it was parallel with him. He looked down at Finn's soaked boots, then reached out and touched the tip of his ear, which was pink and cold as ice. He sighed softly. Fine, if he didn't want to go home, he didn't have to. But he had to get in the truck. Leo offered to drive him to the bus station, pointing out that he'd freeze to death before he walked even half the distance. After a long moment, Finn finally nodded. He climbed into the warm cab, sliding his hands into Leo's coat pockets, a habit from years ago. He leaned his head back and blew a cloud of white vapor toward the windshield, telling Leo he was good to go. For years, their mother, Maria, had called Finn the curse of her life. The older generation in their corner of the county, tucked away in the shadow of Elk Creek Mountain, clung to their old ways. They spoke of bad blood and family shame, a litany of superstition that Finn never understood and never wanted to. In plain terms, he was the disgrace who had tarnished the family name. They called him flighty, unnatural, a pervert. Words meant to sting, meant to isolate. All because he loved men. He was a freak, a stain. The names changed, but the sentiment never did. The wind whipped across the high mountain passes, cold enough to make his eyes water. Finn swallowed, his throat dry. He opened his mouth to speak, the frigid air feeling like a razor blade. Leo had to ask him to repeat himself over the rumble of the truck's engine. Finn raised his voice, telling him not to worry about Cody's school tuition. It was covered. The words hung in the air just as the truck lurched, hitting a deep, hidden rut in the road. Both men bounced in their seats. Cody was Leo's son, Maria's prized grandson, and Finn's nephew. The boy was the center of their small family's universe. Maria had once dreamed of Leo and his wife having 5 sons for good luck. But that dream had shattered when Cody's mother packed a bag and left, leaving a note on the kitchen table. She hadn't taken any money. There wasn't much to take. She hadn't taken their son either. Maria had wailed for a month straight about her bitter fate, cursing the woman's entire family tree. It was only when Cody's grandparents had begged her to stop for the boy's sake that she had finally swallowed her rage. But the bitterness remained, a poison that seeped out in late-night tirades that sent their father's blood pressure soaring. Finn had never liked his sister-in-law, but his heart ached for his quiet brother and for Cody, a small boy no taller than his own leg. Cody looked more like Finn than he did Leo, especially his eyebrows, which were dark and angled like a painter's charcoal strokes on his fair skin. They gave him a sharp, intense look that seemed at odds with his quiet nature. Because of this, perhaps, Finn felt a fiercely protective love for his nephew, more so even than Maria. He saved the best of everything for him, the best toys, the best snacks. The city clothes and new sneakers Cody wore were all gifts from his uncle. Finn was determined to fill the space left by the boy's mother, to shield him from any hint of neglect. Now Cody was old enough for first grade, a year behind the other kids. Maria and Leo felt the local school in Elk Creek was subpar and wouldn't give him a proper start. But getting into a good public school in the city of Linwood was next to impossible for a family from the county. The private ones had tuition fees that were astronomical. So Finn had found a way. He assured Leo that the donation fee wasn't cheap, but he had it covered. Cody just needed to pass the entrance exam before the new year. Finn leaned his head against his brother's back, picking a small piece of lint from his old jacket. The truck rumbled into town. Streetlights and the glow of storefronts began to replace the darkness. Red canvas tents housing late-night barbecue stands lined the road. Leo was adamant that he couldn't take Finn's money, insisting that he had enough and that Finn should save it for himself. Finn just sighed, breathing in the cold, clean air. He wondered what kind of life he was supposed to be saving for. The Elk Creek bus station was a small, square building where a few rundown buses were clustered together. A ticket agent with a gravelly voice and a cigarette tucked behind his ear was yelling destinations, trying to herd people onto his bus without asking where they were going. Finn hopped out of the truck. He promised Leo he'd call if anything came up and that he'd be back for Christmas. He mentioned the broken coffee maker, saying he'd bring a new one, along with their dad's medication, telling Leo not to buy the cheap stuff from the clinic. Leo didn't speak. He just reached out and gently touched the raised, red mark on Finn's cheek. He ran his fingers through Finn's hair, which was long enough to touch his neck. It was a soft, dark brown shot through with faded streaks of ash blonde that looked almost gray in the dim light. He remarked quietly that it was already swelling, and that their mother had gone too far this time. Finn jerked his head away at the mention of her. He crossed his arms, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. He said she was a warrior, that she could shuck corn for hours without stopping. He considered himself lucky she hadn't knocked him out. Leo blamed him for provoking her, for saying things just to get a reaction. Finn shot back that it was her fault for refusing to accept reality. Leo's shoulders slumped as he took the blame himself, for not stopping her, for not talking to her more. Finn hated it when Leo did that, when he took all the world's problems onto his own shoulders. It extinguished any anger Finn had left, forcing him to swallow it down. He told Leo it was fine to just be careful driving back. He took one last look at his brother before turning towards a waiting bus. Leo called out a flurry of last-minute instructions, reminding him to eat well and stay warm, observing that he'd lost weight again. He nagged him about his hair, telling him to stop dyeing it so much and to take more breaks from work and go out with friends instead of overthinking everything. He sounded like a mother sending her daughter off to be married. Finn couldn't help but smile. He turned, waving a hand to cut him off, telling the big lug to stop nagging. Leo stood there and watched as Finn boarded the white bus bound for Linwood. He saw his slender frame move down the narrow aisle and choose a corner seat by the window. Only then did Leo pull his helmet back on, the engine of his truck rumbling back to life as he headed home. The moment he sat down, Finn pulled a small, square compact from his bag. It was old, the powder inside mostly gone, a faded yellow puff tucked inside. He held it up, examining the red handprint on his left cheek. It was raised like a relief carving. He pressed his tongue against the inside of his cheek and felt a sharp, stinging pain. It would be a nasty bruise by morning. He snapped the compact shut, tossed it back in his bag, and squeezed some hand lotion onto the back of his hands. As he was rubbing it in, he noticed a woman in a knit cap sitting across from him, staring. Her eyes, half hidden by loose, wrinkled skin, were a murky mixture of surprise, disdain, and disgust. As if he were contagious, she quickly pulled her wicker basket closer to her, away from where his feet rested. She muttered something under her breath and shot him two unapologetic, withering glares. Finn's hands paused for a second before he gave a nearly imperceptible smile. As a small act of defiance, he stretched his leg forward, letting his foot deliberately brush against her shin. Her eyes widened and she scrambled back in her seat, muttering about shameless people taking advantage. Finn crossed his legs, his smile widening. He offered a disingenuous apology, claiming he was just stretching a cramp. The woman, muttering about filthy freaks, grabbed her basket and moved to a seat further away, throwing the window wide open despite the cold. Freak. Finn heard that word 100 times a year. He was immune to it by now. It was just after midnight. He pulled the hood of his down jacket over his head and yawned. Leaning his forehead against the cold, fogged-over glass of the window, he slowly closed his eyes. By the time the bus rattled into Linwood, the sky was just beginning to lighten. Finn felt like he had a mild concussion from the bumpy ride. The first thing he did was find a pay toilet. He spent several minutes hunched over the toilet bowl, retching until his legs felt weak and tears streamed from his eyes. His phone buzzed. He leaned against the sink, splashing cold water on his face with one hand while answering with the other. He managed to say hello to Dex. Dex's voice came through, cheerful and teasing, asking whose throat he'd been servicing all night to sound so rough. Finn told him to screw off, turning off the tap and running a hand through his bangs. Dex just laughed, followed by a loud sneeze. He complained good-naturedly that while Finn was off on vacation, he was spinning like a top at the salon, so busy his shoulder was about to give out. Finn retorted that he remembered a certain trip to Westlake with Leah that had left him handling 5 clients at once. He cut to the chase, asking if there was any news from Julian's mother. Dex's tone sobered. No, he said it wasn't that easy. Finn told him he'd be at the shop that evening and hung up. He shoved the phone into the back pocket of his jeans, dried his face, and pulled on a mask. Julian was a shampoo boy at their salon, located on a sunny street behind Linwood University. When they hired him, they hadn't asked many questions. He seemed like a decent, clean-cut kid. They took a copy of his ID and that was that. All Finn knew was that he lived in the Warrens, an area on the south side of the city that hadn't yet been redeveloped. It was a hive of cramped, illegal structures, home to gamblers, drunks, and petty thieves. Most people from Linwood avoided it, convinced they'd be pickpocketed the moment they stepped inside. Finn took a cab straight to the south side. Standing at the edge of the Warrens, he understood its reputation. Illegal structures were built on top of other illegal structures, with more wedged into the gaps between them. It was a dense, precarious tangle of buildings that blocked out both sunlight and rain, yet somehow formed a strangely cohesive defensive whole. The alleys within were deep, narrow, and dark, littered with broken bottles and puddles of stagnant water. A cold drop of water from somewhere above landed on his nose. Despite the early hour, the place was eerily quiet. Finn pulled his mask up higher on his nose and cleared his throat. 3 turns into the maze, he saw a sliver of light from a small, crooked courtyard. A short, heavy-set woman was boiling water on a makeshift stove, a handful of noodles in her hand. A toddler, barely knee-high and still sleepy, was clinging to a rusty ladder nearby. Finn approached the woman to ask for directions. The moment he spoke, the child, spotting someone new, rushed over and hugged his legs. Finn gently steadied the small, swaying body, asking the woman if a Julian lived here. The woman called her child back, wiping a hand grimy with mildew on her apron. She said she only knew a Julian, a skinny kid with red hair. Finn figured the name on the ID was fake. He confirmed that was probably him and asked where he lived. The woman pointed up. The courtyard was a chaotic web of clotheslines hung with dripping laundry. She explained it was the room in the corner on the 2nd floor by the coal briquettes, the one with a cartoon sticker on the door. She added that she hadn't seen the kid in 3 or 4 days and wondered if he'd had his heart broken or lost his job. Finn thanked her. He found the room and paused before knocking. He peered through a small, grimy window, pushing aside a bundle of withered, dried herbs. Through the frosted glass, he could see a faint yellow light inside. He rapped his knuckles gently on the door. A voice from inside called out, asking who it was. Finn didn't answer. He waited a few seconds and knocked again. Slowly. The door opened a crack, and Julian, seeing it was Finn, tried to slam it shut. But Finn was faster. He wedged his foot in the opening, used the doorframe for leverage, and slipped inside as smoothly as a rabbit. He asked Julian what he was hiding from. Julian, his attempt to block the door having failed, couldn't meet his eyes. He was wearing a worn-out sweater and faded jeans, his hair a tangled mess. He shrugged with false nonchalance and backed away, sinking onto the edge of his bed. Finn looked around the tiny rental room and frowned. It contained only a low bed, a simple wardrobe missing a handle, and a small table. A space heater glowed at Julian's feet. The table was piled high with old takeout containers, empty drink bottles, and dusty magazines surrounding 2 long dead potted ferns. The air was thick with a damp, musty smell, as if the room hadn't seen sunlight in weeks. Finn flipped a switch on the wall, turning on a dim overhead light. He stated flatly that the ID Julian had given them was fake. Julian mumbled a denial, his fingers fiddling with a cheap handheld game. Finn kicked the door shut with his heel. He declared that whoever was answering him was Julian. The boy defiantly repeated that his name was Julian, not some other name. Finn grabbed a glossy magazine and smacked it down on his head. He snapped that changing his name didn't make him any less of a high school dropout pretending to be something he wasn't. Seeing Finn was genuinely angry, Julian shot back that Finn had only gone to a vocational school himself. Finn told him to shut up, that this was about him. He demanded to know why Julian had skipped work for 4 days without a word, asking if he thought the salon was a charity. He threatened to withhold his entire month's pay. Julian stammered, unable to form a response. Normally, Finn was good to his staff. He didn't act like a boss, treating them more like younger brothers. As long as they didn't cause major trouble, he was easygoing. He had a soft spot for Julian, partly because he was young, partly because he was hardworking and cheerful, and partly because, like Finn himself, he was gay. It was a difficult, thorny path, and the community could be a treacherous place. Finn, considering himself a veteran, felt a need to watch out for him. But a few moments of inattention, and this had happened. Finn sat down on the edge of the bed, brushing some dust from his knees. He named a student from the university's humanities department, Jameson, and recited his dorm address. The gaming device fell from Julian's hand with a clatter. Finn told him not to ask how he knew. His connections at the university were better than Julian's. He looked at the boy's pale, flushed face and asked him to be honest. He needed to know how many times they had been together, if they had used protection, and if it had been consensual. Julian couldn't believe Finn knew. He begged him not to ask, saying he didn't know. He fidgeted, refusing to look up, trying to shrink away from Finn's parental, Sunsuranji gaze. Finn's features were intense. When he looked at someone seriously, he had a sharp, penetrating quality that seemed to see right through them. Finn pressed on, asking if he was injured in the back. He gave him an ultimatum: answer one of the 4 questions or he was fired. Julian's shoulders trembled. He finally nodded, admitting that he was hurt. Finn asked if it was still bleeding. Julian gripped the hem of his shirt, his eyes darting around, a mixture of embarrassment and shame on his face. He whispered yes and begged Finn to stop asking. Finn kicked the bed frame and draped a down jacket over Julian's slumped shoulders, telling him they were going to the hospital. Julian panicked, his voice rising. He refused to go, insisting it wasn't about the money. Finn grabbed his thin arm, but Julian twisted away like an eel, half lying on the bed, pleading and squirming. The bed frame groaned under the strain. He cried out that he couldn't face a doctor, that the humiliation would kill him. Finn's voice was harsh. He asked how else he was supposed to explain it, other than to say some bastard had torn up his insides. Julian declared he would rather die right there. Finn let go. Freed from his grip, Julian rubbed his bruised wrist. But then his body tensed. His lips parted in a slight tremor, his back arching like a bow. A low, suppressed moan of pain escaped him. Finn immediately sat beside him again, his hand gently on Julian's back. The boy's thinness was shocking. His spine was a deep groove, his shoulder blades jutting out like sharp ridges. Finn's voice softened. He asked what was wrong, if he'd hurt him where the pain was. Julian, clutching his stomach, just shook his head stubbornly. Finn guessed it was his stomach and moved to press on it. Julian cried out, scrambling backward. He begged him not to touch it. Finn confirmed it was his stomach, then asked what kind of pain it was. Julian took a deep breath, which seemed to provide a moment of relief. His brow smoothed slightly. He described it as a feeling of being blocked. Then he quickly corrected himself, saying it was just a normal stomachache. But Finn had caught the word. Blocked. Julian waved his hands dismissively, insisting he hadn't said that, his denial utterly unconvincing. Finn's expression grew cold. He grabbed Julian's chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. He demanded the truth, asking if that animal had put something inside him. His question was blunt. Julian's face flushed a deep red. He stammered, looking away. Finn threatened to have him thrown out on the street. Finally, Julian broke. He mumbled that it was a small, soft rubber dildo, and that it was stuck. Julian, for Christ's sake. Finn shot to his feet and kicked the space heater, sending it crashing into the wall. The plastic casing shattered. The noise made Julian flinch and curl into a ball. Finn felt a hysterical laugh rising in his throat. He'd known Julian was hurt, but he hadn't imagined this. If he hadn't come today, would Julian have just endured it? Hidden it? Died of shame? He paced the small room, his voice a furious whisper. He asked if Julian was an idiot, if he'd never read a newspaper. Did he think an infection couldn't kill him? Did he want to rot in this filthy room until the coroner found him? He reminded him fiercely that he was only 19 and demanded to know which he valued more. His pride or his life. The ferocity of the outburst broke Julian. He pressed his hands to his stomach, his face crumpling with all the fear and misery of the past few days, and began to cry.